Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started on day 3, so please take your seats. It's my pleasure to welcome you to day 3 of ICRS. I hope everyone has been enjoying the content as much as I have after 6 to 7 years of planning, as you heard from Simon on day 1. It's just been fantastic to see so many people here from so many countries around the world, especially all the young people who are coming, all the students and early career researchers. It's been my great honor and pleasure to be learning from all of you. So today, I am so excited to welcome our plenary speaker, Dr. Professor Greg Asner, who is a giant in the remote sensing field. I remember watching Greg give a talk at a remote sensing conference, and I'm not going to say when because I don't want to date us going back, but he looks really, really good for how long ago this was. And Greg has always been on the kind of cutting edge, leading edge of remote sensing technology and applications for coral reefs, but also for forests and for the connections between land and sea. Greg has managed to do a phenomenal thing in that he's from the Big Island in Hawaii, and he's managed to base himself there for his entire career, despite the fact that he's worked for all of these different centers and that Arizona State University came to him in 2019. This is before COVID, and he convinced them that, no, I will do this, but only if I can do remote work. Greg has also done a lot for the state of Hawaii and the communities and government and the Big Island in terms of different organizations that he's co-founded and developed. For example, the Akoakoa Reef Restoration Program. Greg has also he joined the Carnegie Institution for Science, where he developed and led the Pacific Ridge to Reef program for 18 years. And in 2018, he co-founded the Hawaii Marine Education and Research Center, which is a nonprofit convening center for communities and government agencies. So he brings together these conversations that blend and bridge Western science and indigenous science together to be able to help foster better management of natural resources. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg. Please give him a warm welcome.
Good morning. Stacy, thank you. I want to thank Georgia Watson. I want to thank Murray Ford. I want to thank the conveners for not only this opportunity, but for taking care of me to get me here for this opportunity. So thank you for everything. It means a lot. I don't normally do a lot of conferences, but I thought, well, we haven't seen each other in a while, so I'm getting around. I'm visiting with old friends. I'm meeting new people, and I'm really interested in the next-gen scientists that are here. So if you're thinking about the future, please find me and let's talk about that future if any of what I have to say is of interest to you. Looks like we're set here. I was asked to focus on, for this plenary, on a global scale perspective on coral reef monitoring. That's interesting. Coral reef monitoring at the global scale, we kind of know what the state of the art is. It's in the NOAA Coral Reef Watch, sea surface temperature types of monitoring systems. But there's been an evolution that's focused more on the ecology and the conservation side of this, and I'm going to try to explain that as I go forward here. What I'm not going to do is this. When I was communicating about this plenary, it started to feel like I was supposed to do a synthesis about all of the different techniques for monitoring. So I said, okay, I'm going to put this in one slide and move on. I'd really like you to see the incredible literature on this topic. It's booming. As an editor of multiple journals, I'm getting great submissions that are synthetic, that are looking across monitoring genre, that are looking at imaging at different scales, bioacoustics, eDNA, chemical sensing, all sorts of underwater vehicles. All of these things are happening all at the same time, and it would be probably pretty bland for me to go over all of that today. So I didn't do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is take you on more of a personal path. And since I don't get to many conferences, I want to at least talk a little bit about my group and our colleagues that encircle that group very closely in Hawaii. And that sort of makes the motivation for this global monitoring at local scales. That's what I'm going to get to here. So my 3 highlights are really about what motivates us, a little bit about the past, so at least the way I think about global coral reef monitoring for local users, and then more of a perspective on what I think is coming next. And I think what's coming next is very exciting, and it's very challenging, and we're going to need people to invest their time and their intellectual horsepower into getting us into that future. A question that I hope this plenary answers, or at least addresses, I don't think I'll answer it at all, actually. I'm addressing the question, can we build and maintain global scale coral reef monitoring capabilities for local scale applications? Can we really do that? Or is that sort of a dream that we're not getting to? I'm doing this because I know there's some press people here that already approached me, and a lot of us know all the next 3 slides, so I just am saying some of this so that our colleagues who are going to be doing media stories about this work know that we have these threats to coral reefs that we're hearing about, that we're focusing on, that we're addressing and developing interventions around. I don't need to go through these lists. You can scan them yourself. A thing that is very important from a global monitoring perspective is the system is chaotic. The disturbance surface on the planet is driven by factors that are global in terms of climate change, but it's so chaotic that it's really hard to get sort of a general sense of what's going on when you're only working at the local scale, so global perspectives do matter for that. The consequences of all of this are definitely experienced at the community level. And for those of us who live in rural communities and who are doing research in rural communities or anywhere really, are seeing this list of consequences beyond and related to the climate issue itself. And so you can look at those and take a moment. Nowhere does this seem to be more apparent than on islands, oceanic islands. That's a view of Hawaii, the state of Hawaii, the archipelago from the International Space Station. As Stacy said, I've spent most 31 years of my career on the Big Island, which is a rural community island. We have about, I think, less than 200,000 residents on 1 million hectares of island. 5 high volcanoes. It's got a continental feel because of the the size of the volcanoes and the way water runs from mountain peak down to ocean, to the interface at the ocean. It has that sort of big sky feeling, but it's still an oceanic island. And for me, I've been extraordinarily lucky to, as a scientist, to be able to work over the years, many years now, with different communities to mostly learn what it is that is challenging them at the scale of the community, but how that links back to issues at the global scale for scientists who are working on global monitoring systems. Nowhere has this been more impactful to me than where I reside today and have resided for many years now, in the just down the street from the village of Milili'i, which is one of the iconic, most culturally storied places in Hawaii. And the folks there have really taught me the challenges, whether it's the fishery or land issues or government interface issues or just a plethora of issues. And that's been a driver of a lot of our development in our thinking behind global scale, but local applied types of systems. As Stacy mentioned, in 2019, I was recruited to ASU. I've never lived in Arizona. I visit there, but the ASU construct was get away from campus and do work within and among communities, for communities. Think of it as almost like a community extension program. And so I'm in that part of the university, and we have a mission in Hawaii and other places that tries to integrate these issues of science and technology and community leadership to try to build an understanding over time of how we can be more resilient. Today we have 23 principal investigators and more than 100 people in the center, so it's grown pretty well even during COVID and even with the cutbacks that we've seen in the US government. Today, we think of the Big Island, its 1 million hectares, as an island as the campus. We don't invest in one place for everyone to have to go to. Instead, we sort of distribute all of our effort among our faculty who are of Western science and indigenous science backgrounds around the island doing this work. The science is, of course, part of the story, from ethnoecology to data science, from mountain peak to bottom of the reef. And in my world, we do a lot of cutting-edge technology development on the Big Island and based in and around the Big Island, whether it's in the Kona side, the west side, or in the Hilo side. The intergenerational knowledge story of this is not one where we sort of see them as separate. We see, okay, how do we work these knowledges together, learn from the past, and deal with the future, meaning rapid climate change, which may or may not be in the indigenous knowledge base, because we're in a new climate regime that maybe hasn't been experienced by anyone. So these are issues in our center. Always the focus is community. Anyone who joins our center is tasked, challenged, not required is too strong of a word, but sort of you're coming to work on big problems at the community level. And that last sentence is what I think matters the most to our young scientists that I speak to, that I want to say, is that the communities give us a purpose beyond the scientific discoveries that we make along the way. That's really our purpose. And the discovery part's going to happen. You're going to publish your papers. You're going to do great things. But really, it's serving your fellow citizens that gives us a really strong breath of fresh air in conservation science that's evolved just during my 30-year career so far. Within my lab, within this center, just in my piece of the pie, I've been very lucky and very challenged to work in 3 major programs, and I'm going to talk about 2 of them today. I won't talk about the restoration program because I was asked to talk about monitoring, but I'm going to talk about the Allen Coral Atlas, a bit of its evolution, partially because I've never gotten around to publishing a history of it yet, and we're in our 9th year. I'm going to get to it with some of my colleagues that are out here. And our Global Airborne Observatory program and how that feeds into global monitoring, thinking, and the future. Hawaii, to me, has been Hawaii. It's taken care of my community. But one of the great things about it is it has a range of ecosystems from high desert to wet tropical forest, from coral reef to temperate systems, all in one place. And that's let us develop technologies that we can take out from Hawaii. Forest carbon mapping and assessment was one that I did. People know me from that one. We really did put LiDAR and other technologies that are now kind of older technologies to me, sort of into the mainstream, and now we have global systems, including satellite-based systems for that. The biodiversity world, we also did a lot of work, especially in the first 20 years of this century, focused on how do we measure land-based biodiversity better, and that's resulted in new platforms like the Global Safety Net. But I want to talk about coral reef monitoring and some of what we've developed in Hawaii and what our colleagues have developed in collaboration with us and how that's led to the Allen Coral Atlas. To do that, I have to rewind to 2016, so it's, I guess, 10 years. State of the global coral reef monitoring, as was stated back then, was that we had no globally comparable high-resolution reef maps, that we didn't have any real-time global information about reef change, and that local communities were always telling us that they're under-supported by the scientific community. That is not true of Coral Reef Watch. Coral Reef Watch has been, to me, a great guide because it showed me how you can do global work that matters at least a regional or sub-regional scale. And so that program is a great example of how you can evolve something from the physics and the biology and so forth of a problem and the remote sensing of a problem and make it so useful that I bet anyone who's doing coral reef work here plugs into this platform. The beginnings of the Coral Atlas, the Allen Coral Atlas, is named after the late Paul Allen. He challenged his folks at Vulcan, who were funding me and Ruth Gates at the time on other projects, to figure out how they can come up with a new plan to map and monitor the world's coral reefs in space. And a major requirement that emerged from the discussions, Ruth was a champion of community thinking, I was doing that too, and then all of the colleagues that came in around that. I was at the Carnegie Institution at the time, Ruth from Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology, our friends from Planet Labs, Chris Rolsema and his team from University of Queensland and the Vulcan Group itself, at that time we started thinking, okay, how do we make a system that is global in scale but local in application? Today it looks like this, and many of the partners have evolved. I'm now at ASU, so my logo changed. Coral Reef Alliance, that's Helen Fox and her team, did incredible work getting the Coral Atlas into community hands all around the planet. And the same partners kept going and going and going together. The platform today is still evolving and improving, but I want to give a little bit of the history for a minute, or 2 minutes. The global habitat maps were something that was a major collaborative between Planet with its 3-meter resolution satellite data, millions of images, flowing through my lab for pre-processing and then into Chris's lab at UQ for a really high-tech method for getting estimates of where our benthic habitats are and our geomorphic habitats are, and reef extent. And the reason we did this, and it spent a lot of money and time doing this, was that one, we didn't have it at such a resolution, and two, the use case scenarios were piling up, and you can read these for yourself, from marine spatial planning to, I'll get to this, to parametric storm insurance. So that list was already piling up, and we were motivated to get this out. One of the great outcomes of the work that was led in this part of the atlas by University of Queensland was an incredible finding that we actually have 25% more shallow coral reef than we thought we had prior to the study. So this is 2023, this report led by Mitch Lyons and Chris's team, and we're all contributing to it. But this uses 100 trillion pixels of satellite data, 500 different data contributions or more from around the planet, and millions of training samples. And this is what I mean by getting a product built that is global in scale, not any less than global. It does have a depth limit, but has a value at the local level that people can use. Made it freely available online, which it is today, still today, and then embarked on the effort to get it in the hands of folks that may not be in a room like ICRS, okay? That was the goal. And so we did that and did that and did that. Yes, we also included an interface that allows for the system to connect to standard government data like MPA data and maritime boundaries, and therefore you can go in there and generate statistics and look up your region of interest, as this little video is showing, to give you a sense for what it is in case you're new to this. User stories started to emerge even before I was a partner in it, and then I had to take it over in 2020, and I've been running the Coral Atlas solo ever since then in terms of the platform maintenance and getting user feedback. But the user stories were coming in even before 2020. Sri Lanka was an early user, Mozambique an early user, using these benthic and geomorphic habitat maps that UQ made for the Atlas to generate marine spatial plans and to generate new opportunities for themselves. Today, today we have an incredible set of stats. And I just had, there's one guy that I work with maintaining the website, and he pulled these numbers off. We have kind of a clicker for all this stuff. 90,000, at least 90,000 users, 500,000 website visitors and 189 countries, and 52,000 was the last number for data downloads. We also have a bleaching alerts that I'm going to talk about. I think one of the coolest things about being able to, having the opportunity to make a global product, a global platform with local importance or local value, is that we've gotten a lot of letters and feedback from organizations that have used the Atlas to develop new MPAs. And Indonesia is like definitely the winner. They have generated, I think, 24 MPAs in the time of the Atlas with the help of data from the Atlas. So that makes us feel like, okay, this is worth it. This is definitely worth doing, and the labor and the blood, sweat, and tears to make it happen. It's not over. We're still innovating. Last week, we put out a paper in Nature. It made the cover on global seagrass extent. it's a first estimate. We already know that it's a first estimate, but it's done with a 10-meter resolution in a way that's very systematically mapped so that we have kind of an even coverage for in terms of how you apply the technology. And so the map is useful as a starting point for people who are focused on seagrass ecosystems. And this is just this week and last week being put into the atlas, and it's active now in the atlas as it shows in the slide. I did mention parametric insurance. This is, I'm seeing this as a booming area now. We have it through Nature Conservancy in Hawaii and other partners in Hawaii, but I'm seeing it all around the planet because of the Allen Coral Atlas role. Here's an email I got on the 19th of July from I won't say who the person is, but a very major insurance executive sent me this as just a note saying, we used you guys, and ultimately the coral reef location, which he's talking about reef extent, it was key in the design of the solution, which means their insurance calculus, which pays out based on, meaning payout insurance, based on the distance between the coral, which he means the reef, and a hurricane, a named hurricane. So, you know, these are the kinds of things that we hope coral reef monitoring can really do beyond the scientific literature. That's the goal. Bleaching detection is another one. I spent a lot of years working on this and still do in a sense. I'm going to tell you why I don't in a minute. But another challenge to us by Paul Allen and his team was, can you develop something that'll help us look for coral bleaching globally but have local scale impact? The use cases that we came up with are listed there, from prioritizing restoration to identifying resilient reefs that we've heard about in the conference already. We spent a lot of time trying to figure this out, boats and diving and looking at different levels of symbiont host interactions. What's it take to really see this from satellites and so forth and so on. An example is here for those of you who are remote sensing people. I don't want to let you down. So here's a snippet. Even underwater with pretty high-tech underwater spectrometers, if you're going to look at coral bleaching from space, you're going to, at least prior to very recently, you're going to only have a few spectral channels, and those circles on that graph on the right side are really all you're going to get. You're not going to get a full spectral signal that would really tell you if the coral's bleaching, so I call it barely detectable. We spent this barely detectable technology, multispectral, passing over Hawaii. Again, we used Hawaii as sort of a breeding ground for this. During the 2019 heat wave, we had a heat wave that was medium in scale. It was just the right amount of heat wave to cause kind of a range of conditions from kind of not so impacted to heavily impacted. We did some social media outreach. We got people around the archipelago and the state to report into a platform, an app that we built, and that deployed the second technology that I want to mention, our aircraft program. That ultimately allowed us to calibrate, and squeeze some of this bleaching out of multispectral data from satellites. And here's a couple of examples, Kaneohe Bay on the left and a spot in West Hawaii on the right. And these are literally the satellite images as the 2019 heat wave progressed. And you can see the coral bleaching. And we were doing the field work and saying, yeah, this is working generally enough that we can proceed. Today, I just snipped this off on the flight here, and this is July 13th, so this is last week or so, and this is the state of our bleaching conditions as detected from satellite, which is passed over every 2 weeks, and or the product is made every 2 weeks, and the green areas are where we have some bleaching detected. It doesn't mean it's fully bleaching in the full green area, but there's some in there, because when you zoom out, you have to have a visual guide to zoom back in. I just circled Galapagos there in the red circle, and then I zoomed in, and this is the actual satellite-based bleaching in the Galapagos last week. And you can zoom, and see that. Yellow is mild bleaching, and red is more severe. Well, I kind of think we're going to get away from bleaching monitoring. I don't kind of think that. That's a humble way of saying it. I strongly feel that we need to get away from it, because one person's bleaching is another person's paling, is another person's great day, is another person's terrible day. The whole thing is a mess, and we all know that. And it was really expressed in the work that our colleagues from Coral Reef Alliance led us within the Allen Coral Atlas program to look at all the field data about coral bleaching. And the thing, it just hit home for me that there's 1,000 methods, 1,000 scales, many ways to do this. You can develop a nice bleaching approach for your reef, but how do you put it together in a global context? It's really hard. And my job is to figure out how to titrate this out and figure out a general story for bleaching detection. So I took a kind of a left turn at that point when I was involved in that study, and I went back to the program that has really driven my career that I built, and it was born and raised in Hilo, Hawaii 20 years ago. We're in our 20th year. I don't know how that happened, but 2026 is our 20th year. It's called the Global Airborne Observatory. If you Google around, it used to be called the Carnegie Airborne Observatory. It's the same platform, I just changed employer. And we began working on a new approach. Rather than looking at coral bleaching, let's look at live versus dead coral. And let's kind of get rid of the focus on the sick, and let's look at the survivors and those who are dying. From a spectral perspective, it's much clearer, much. And there's very little ambiguity at that point. But you have to have the right technology to see it. And this is the right technology. It's been in the back of my plane for some years. We build and rebuild these imaging spectrometers that are very unique. We also have high-resolution cameras that give us context, like that. You can take a ride on the plane with me anytime. I'll tell you where we are in a minute. We're not in Hawaii right now. Or you can just look at this video and get a sense for what it's like to fly. We fly about 10,000 feet. The resolution is incredible now. We're doing 24-centimeter mapping. We're just innovating on this platform all the time. But most importantly, we're using the platform to figure out that global future. Our operational reef products from the Airborne Observatory are listed here. They've become more and more routine. The AI side, the deep learning models are very stable now from whether we go from Hawaii to another reef system in the Caribbean. We've been all over the Caribbean, and now we're in somewhere else in the Pacific. I don't want to mess up my punchline yet. The live coral cover from the aircraft is very stable. And that's good because it tells us that we should be able to go spaceborne soon. These are data sets that we fly and see the whole island archipelago in Hawaii in this case, but can zoom in to very fine resolution, in this case 2-meter resolution, and verify that against field data, which were collected by both my team and our very close colleagues at the Hawaii Division of Aquatic Resources. When you do that, when you can see where the living coral is, to whatever depth, for us it's 25 meters right now, then we have the opportunity to look for change through time. And that's what I'm after. And that's, I think, where the global monitoring field needs to get to quickly, to get the story straight about where we're losing reef and losing coral, where we're maintaining coral, and so forth and so on at that global scale. We did this for the first time with colleagues, many of you who are here, looking at just the loss of corals, live corals in the 2019 heat wave in Hawaii. So this is 2 time steps. These colors on this map are the brighter colors are more loss, and the darker colors are less loss. It doesn't matter right now, just letting you know that this was the first time we tried this. Nowadays, we're doing, and I haven't showed this in public yet. Click. Not working. Help. There we go. Thanks for the help. Now we're going through time. And so you see these panels here, 2017 through 2025, and I just picked some out of the time series. And vertically, they align latitudinally with the west coast of the Big Island, which is shown on the far right part of the graph. And all that matters here is I'm showing you that through time, you can look with depth on the x-axis and see where coral is changing through time. Red is more change, blue is less change. White, which we don't see a lot of, would be a lot of change. And critically, then you can do kind of the difference. Year 1 to year 2, the difference. Year 2 to year 3, the difference, and so forth. And then you can see exactly what's going on. And I've never showed this in public before. I'm getting close with colleagues that are here. I'm looking at you guys through the bright lights. But you see the effect of the 2019 heat wave. The red, we lost a lot, not nearly as bad as a previous heat wave, but we lost plenty of coral in the 2019 heat wave in West Hawaii. And critically, we see regrowth in the blues. And we know why in the field. We do know why. And a lot we don't know why. But it's happening. It's verified that it's happening, but we don't know why. So the story is way more interesting than loss. It's loss and recovery, and that's shown in these sort of summation graphs like this, also a first. These are by depth, different lines. The black line is all depths. You see the dip in 2019 to 2020 in the shallow depth of blue and a little less in orange. And then you see some increases, slight, but when you integrate over an area of West Hawaii, which is 200 kilometers in distance, all the reef, and a 1 or 2% increase since that heat wave, that's very substantial increase in coral cover. And those of you who dive West Hawaii are calling me all the time and saying, yeah, it's booming. So there's a lot more to this story than loss. I'm going to take us even further eventually, I hope before the end of my career, and get us from live coral cover to functional composition. This is kind of what it would look like visually. That's a bay in West Hawaii, and that's what different communities of corals look like. It's both genetic and species specific, but it's also admixtures of different benthic community contributors. When you do that, then you can start to fly and map and see the future of where we might be going with our aircraft, which is kind of unveiling these communities along coastlines in ways and in places that we've never seen before. So the Coral Atlas of the future, I might be stewarding it still. I hope one of you will be. What's next? For sure, it's going to be based on new satellite technology. I think we're moving from this airborne to spaceborne spectroscopy, which is this high-tech, some people call it hyperspectral method. And to prove that it's possible, I just published a paper with my colleagues looking at whether we could do this in Hawaii, using Hawaii again as a test bed. The upper panels on the far left are the satellite, a new satellite called Tanager 1 that I helped build and deliver, and it's now in orbit. And then the airborne in the bottom left. And you can just see that the patterns are about the same for the first set of panels is live coral cover, the middle set of panels is macroalgal cover, and I think the last set is sand cover, I believe, or I may have flipped them there. So, but you get the sense that from this study that this is possible. The satellite is in orbit, and we're launching 2 more, Tanager 2 and Tanager 3 next year. So in preparation for all of that future, my ending of my story today is that I've decided to move my aircraft program from Hawaii to Guam. And the reason I did is that it's too far for me to fly back and forth from Hawaii to all over the West Pacific. So I have a new aircraft hangar and in Guam, and we just spent the last 3 months, it's arduous doing these things, and, but we survived the transition. And we already mapped the CNMI, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands. And I know people love MOG, so I put up a shot of MOG there, and Arrakis, the most distant volcanic island in the Marianas. The far right image is it on our screen on board our plane as we're flying over it, mapping its reef. So we did do that, and we have decided to come out with this 20th anniversary campaign in the Pacific. It's well-funded, to be honest, and to be open about it. But we're going to Palau, and we're going to Micronesia from there. So we're going to be going with partners, communities, people who want their high-resolution maps, while we're also passing the Tanager satellite over to continue to move towards that global capability, calibration, checking, verification, and all that. You can keep an eye on our work this way, updates from the field. And here's a neat cartoon that one of my people begged me to show. So here it is, showing our kind of our current mission. Like I said, we finished CNMI and Guam. I failed to say that, and we're about to hit Palau and work with our Palauan partners there on the same set of maps. Finally, I have 4 predictions, and I'm ahead of time. So my 4 predictions are as follows. From a global monitoring capability perspective for coral reefs, one is I think live coral cover monitoring is going to become very routine, and I think we'll be able to do it to 20 meters depth. We're doing it to 25 in clear water with our aircraft, but I'm being conservative, 20 meters depth. I think it'll be routine 4 years from now. I really do. The satellite technology that's being launched, it's a highly competitive world of these spectrometers, and let them compete, let them put them up. I work with Planet, but whoever's going to feed the fire, we're going to use, and we're going to get there. And the Allen Coral Atlas, or a derivative of it, will be the host of that kind of monitoring system. We'll get away from this uncertainty of coral bleaching monitoring, at least at a global scale. I do it a lot with the Allen Coral Atlas, and it's just a highly uncertain domain, for all the reasons I mentioned. I think we got to get away from that, at least from the global level, and focus on coral survival and mortality. I also know this is true, and we've already proven it with the Allen Coral Atlas, that by us doing this, taking this on, the user community costs are greatly decreasing at the local level. The Allen Coral Atlas is free. We're keeping it free of charge, and I've had a lot of people try to veer us away from that, but there's no way it's going to go any other way but free to the communities. And finally, my 4th prediction is that global scale high-resolution monitoring of shallow coral reefs that I'm describing now will ultimately, it's you folks who are going to drive these innovations and efficiencies in protection and restoration, discovery, and management. So I'm going to end there, and thank you guys for listening, and hopefully this gives you at least my view of where I think the global coral reef monitoring field is going. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Greg. That was wonderful. What a great overview. And just on behalf of the conference organizing team, we have a little token of appreciation for you. Thanks so much. And please join me again for thanking Greg. And while I'm here, just a little bit of housekeeping before I keep you from morning tea. Just 2 announcements just to remind you that we have another poster session on this evening that will be starting from 6 p.m. And then at 6:30 p.m. in here, we'll be doing a screening of the Pristine Seas film Super Reefs, which is a story of resilience and reef bounce back in the Line Islands. And then you can join 5 of your esteemed colleagues and me. I'll be moderating a panel to talk about reef resilience later this evening. So thank you very much and have a great day, everyone.